When I saw this collection, I was really in tears because I see myself, at 20, who loved poets and Baudelaire and 19th century Paris, of everything possible. And it was a very emotional thing for me to see the collection. One word, poetry.
This is Patti Smith describing a collection from spring 2007, and it raised a question. What if fashion wasn't just clothes but wearable poetry? This designer could craft a collection that feels like storm-ripped sonnets, monochrome, raw, and hauntingly beautiful. Welcome to Fashion Anthology, where I talk and discuss fashion. In my first video, I would dive into the world of my ultimate muse, Ann Demeulemeester. And without any further ado, let's begin. This is Ann Demeulemeester. Born in 1959 in Waregem, Belgium, Ann Verheijst, also known as Ann Demeulemeester, discovered her artistic voice early. Though raised in a family distant from the arts, her father encouraged her creative pursuits. At 13, she began formal art study, initially focusing on portraiture. It was here she noticed the symbiotic relationship between clothing and identity, a seed that later bloomed into her fashion ethos. At 15, Ann Demeulemeester left home to attend art school in Antwerp. During this time, she first met her future husband, Patrick Robin, who was at the time a young local boy, already had leanings to become an artist, and soon enough made a name for himself in photography. Later, she continued studying at Antwerp Royal Academy of Fine Arts from 1978 to 1981 under Linda Looper, alongside future icons like the senior Martin Magella. During her time at the academy, she often felt like an outsider, clashing with traditional mentors, such as a pattern-making teacher who dismissed black and white combination as unchic and only believed in a world of Chanel off-white. This friction sharpened her resolve to embrace rebellion, aligning with the era punk and new romantics movement. Her time at the Academy also birthed the so-called Antwerp Six, a collective of avant-garde designers, including herself with 5 other designers: Dries van Noten, Walter van Beirendonck, Dirk van Zijn, Dirk Bickenberg, and Marina Yee. Years after graduating from the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in 1981, Ann Demeulemeester won the Golden Spur, an annually awarded prize to the year's most promising fashion designer. But at the time, the impact of the award in the industry was very limited. Ann struggled to find jobs and began working as a freelance designer and pattern maker for many logo brands and designers. She also assisted fashion icon Martin Magella for an undisclosed Italian brand for a few years. And this is about to change very soon. In 1985, Ann Demeulemeester married Patrick Robin and proceeded to release her own fashion line with her husband, who put an end to his career as a photographer and devoted himself to his wife's fashion label. He assumed the role of a shadow creative director for the brand, an unofficial position that he still occupies many years later. We can realize a lot of the campaigns for the brand were taken by him, and he also took part in design for the store and many creative work behind the scenes. A year later, the Antwerp Six decided to take a trip to London to showcase the collection to the world, but Ann Demeulemeester decided to stay in Belgium as she was about to give birth to her son Victor. Instead, she sent along her collection of sunglasses. She went on and produced her first collection in 1987 and added shoes and accessories the following year. After successfully showcasing the collection, the six returned to London each following season. During their presence at London Fashion Week in March 1988, they had the big break with the English and international press. They decided to switch Paris for London to present the collection. And it wasn't until 1991 when Ann Demeulemeester debuted her first runway show of women at Paris Fashion Week in a bare art gallery that critics branded them funeral.
I wasn't at all prepared for that. It really went very quickly. After the second fashion show, I made the Journal de Textiles league tables. I was right up there at the top, and I was wondering what was happening.
3 years later, as the business grew so fast, Ann Demeulemeester approached Belgian entrepreneur Anne Chapelle for help in building her brand, which, under her tenure, restructured the business as a little multinational. This decision was made due to the fact that she felt the need to have her own creative freedom, and later they created a holding company, BBVA 32, that also included the Belgian designer Haider Ackermann. Finally, in 2005, Anne Chapelle acquired the company majority stake from Demeulemeester. Ann debuted her menswear line in 1996, seamlessly mixed with women, a choice that was repeated in subsequent collections until the creation of a specific line in 2005. She became one of the first designers to showcase both men and women collection in one presentation. The brand opened its first flagship store in Antwerp in 1999 and later other stores around the world. Over time, she managed to build a successful business, but in November 2013, Ann Demeulemeester announced that she would leave her namesake label through a handwritten letter. In her letter, she said, "A new time is coming both for my personal life and the brand Ann Demeulemeester. I feel it's time to separate our paths. Ann Demeulemeester is an adult brand now with its own identity and legacy that is able to continue growing without me." In the same year, the label also parted from BBVA 32 and once again became an independent firm. Prior to her departure, Anne personally chose the French designer Sebastian Muner as her successor of the brand, and he did a really good job succeeding on legacy and even drew in new customers. Leaving fashion behind, Anne attended porcelain master classes in England and France. In 2019, she launched Ann Demeulemeester Seracs, a collection of affordable porcelain dinner services along with silverware, glasses, and larger houseware. After the Italian retailer Claudio Antonioli bought the company in 2020 and the resignation of Sebastian Muner, Anne announced in September 2021 her return to the Ann Demeulemeester label as an advisor for the next 10 years. That same month, the brand Antwerp flagship store reopened after a year of renovation, and the one behind it is no other than her husband, Patrick Robin. Anne is now mostly focusing on the Ann Demeulemeester by Serac homeware and furniture collections. However, in September 2023, Ann Demeulemeester and Claudio Antonioli released an exclusive fragrance, marking her first design project for the brand since her exit in 2013.
Just like a musician who writes music, or a painter who paints, I make clothes to communicate, to let a product convey an emotion.
Known for elegant tailoring and dark yet glamorous aesthetic, Ann Demeulemeester created a smoky, serene, and darkly romantic atmosphere with a sense of rebellion and sophistication. For Ann Demeulemeester, fashion is a form of communication, a complex language of contrast that evokes ranges of emotion. Her design thrives on contradictions, fuses minimalism, menswear, and modernized Victoriana. Like a punk poet in a tailor suit, her work balances rebellions, elegance, and experimentation. In an interview with The Independent, she shared, "I can make 10 jackets of the same color, same 2 pockets, and same length that will look like 10 completely different jackets when you put them on. It's about the way they are cut. It makes them look and feel differently and move differently, and that's a never-ending study. People who wear my clothes will know exactly what I mean." She tears apart classic tailoring and finds beauty in distress, such as sleeve fray, collar droops, or boots look forged in a storm, and every imperfection is meticulously crafted. The tension in her design is highly poetic, with clothes that reveal many layers of the soul. They are simple the way a knife is simple. Talking about poetry, Ann Demeulemeester muses have ranged from poets such as Herman Hesse, Lord Byron, Arthur Rimbaud, etc. And even though not necessarily a poet, her husband, Patrick Robin, who also served as her personal fit model and tries on every single piece of her man collection. She also took inspiration from artists like Jackson Pollock and Jim Dine, and most notably her longtime friend Patti Smith, who is probably the most important figure in Ann design. As a teenager, she came across the cover of Patti Smith's album Horses, featuring the artist in black and white wearing a superbly androgynous outfit. She loved it so much that in her academy years, she made 3 white shirts and managed to send them to the singer address in Detroit. And later, they developed a friendship, a bond that still lasts till today. And even Patti Smith herself once said she only wore Ann Demeulemeester vintage. We can see the identical things shared between Ann and Patti Smith, as the image and direction they go for in their art are very similar, but they also share a particular interest in poetry. Both are poets in their very own way, and for Ann Demeulemeester, it's not only shown through her use of poem, but also in her language through fashion. Just as the poet shattered formal constraint to chase raw, untamed emotion, Ann Demeulemeester dismantles classic tailoring grammar to prioritize visceral expression. For example, storm-ripped sleeves aren't mere deconstruction, they are ruptures in the fabric of convention. Or her alchemical boots and maudlin collars function as wearable poetry. These forms transmit anguish and hope into silhouette. We often see black as a dominant color in her collection. According to Ann, black is the color of poetry. She can use it also as a strong, eternal, beautiful, and classic color, or even to add strength. It can range from romantic to aggressive, a whole gamut of emotions. But amidst all the darkness, she also expresses her need for the white color, like a black and white photo. Quote unquote, "When I create new shape and cuts. Later, I make them in black or white, and that way I'm not distracted by color. Once the piece is ready, I don't add needless decoration. I prefer to keep it pure. Still, there's a whole range of black and white. Also, black can evoke very different emotions depending on the material." Another motif in Ann design that's hard to ignore is feathers. She often uses feathers from simple and humble creatures like roosters, doves, or ducks. To her, feathers is an excellent representative of perfection. In an interview with Momu Antwerp, she shared, "Since childhood, I have had a great respect for feathers, particularly dove feathers. For me, a dove feather represents the poetry of the ordinary, a sort of perfection that anyone can randomly find on the street." In the same interview, she also shared her principle working with animal material and her bias toward nature. I only use natural material when I can do no harm. In other words, I only use skins of animals, goats, sheep, etc., that are already used for meat consumption. I use the same principle for feathers. They are residue from the poultry farmers. I do not have birds plucked. For feathers, it is the same as for other animal skins. We have reached a very high level with fake fur, mostly visual, but the sense of real fur cannot be recreated with artificial material. In a fur coat, you are never too hot or too cold. This material breathes and lives. We cannot perfect nature. Feathers combine fragility, simplicity, and poetry. They are also a tool for Ann Demeulemeester to balance and perfect her designs by adding contrast between tenderness and hardness. This gives her design a sense of sensibility. Her collection never entails a one-sided romantic or heart feel. It must always have a soul. That is where the feathers are so meaningful. The choice of a type of feathers depends on the effect she wants to attain.
The accent is really on the feminine side, but at the same time there is a masculine mood too, but in a very poetic way. And there is also the contrast between the very fragile and the very strong. And
For many people, Ann Demeulemeester is one of the pioneers blurring the lines between men and women. To me, it seems like it was done on purpose, and at the same time, not on purpose. We can see the shared aesthetic in men and women designs, the elongated lines, bias cuts, the fluid fabric choice, and many more. Honestly, I cannot see anything on women that can't be worn on men and the other way around in her collections. Ann Demeulemeester did design with gender on her mind, and through many of her interviews, she made a very clear point on how men and women are like two sides of a coin, like yin and yang, and cannot be separated. Conflicted, but complete and complement each other, and like their shape, very similar, while in depth, they are very different. This led to the conversation on the depth of every human being, the soul.
I never thought about the money. I had to do business to keep going, but that was not the starting point. I asked myself, what can I do for people to create more beauty, not just in clothes, but in the soul? How can I make the world a little bit more beautiful? That was the impression we had. It was very exciting.
In Ann Demeulemeester universe, soul is etched in every stitch. She has constantly insisted on how she thinks people come to her because they want a soul again, and this speaks volume. We can see she designs based on the inner aspects, portraying the mystery in humans and the dynamic in each individuals. This leads to clothes that feel androgynous, quote unquote. All human beings have masculine and feminine elements. The tension between the two is the essence of life. It's a mystery that will always inspire me. In practice, I work for completely different bodies. Men are so real with their clothes, they don't play roles like women do, and that's why they are so inspiring to me. However, the most important thing is to be intriguing to each other in life. The soul is also where Ann Demeulemeester finds sexiness. As a matter of fact, Ann has a very distinctive approach to it as well. She doesn't just focus on the look or showing skin as a bare bone of sensuality. She always finds the beauty and sexiness in what are not always there. Something more mysterious. And is there anything more perfect than the soul? She talked about this in her interview with Days. I try to work with sexuality as I feel it, in an honest way and not with rules that were imposed on us many years ago. Don't forget the rule. The most sensual thing is always what you hide. Don't confuse vulgarity with sexuality. As we talk about the soul, I couldn't help mentioning that Ann Demeulemeester promotes the idea of not over-consuming fashion and focusing on what speaks to you as a person. Rejecting the ephemeral nature of trends-driven and celebrity, Ann Demeulemeester embodies an intellectual and independent approach to fashion, with almost no celebrity dressing, pre-collection, or advertising to build buzz. Ann Demeulemeester's discreet demeanor and fierce independent streak is an antidote to the overheated fashion system. She often asks people to look deep into themselves and really understand the soul. She has been very honest about this reality. People have enough clothes in their wardrobe, she says. I'm not interested in the celebrity hype. My client is not a fashion victim, but someone who chooses what he wants, someone with individuality. The clothes she created are not only poetic and unconventionally beautiful, but also really practical. This is something I feel like a lot of people forget when we talk about clothes or fashion. For me, personally, at the end of the day, even if fashion is presented as an art form, it is still need to be served as something wearable and should have the ability to withstand time. This is one of the main reasons why, when we look at her clothes, it creates a sense of timelessness, and in her words, she want to deliver some good pieces in your wardrobe that hopefully you would wear for a long time.
Could you have done that? Work for a fashion house like, I don't know, Givenchy?
Technically, I know how to do it. I could do the job, no problem. But I didn't do it. I've been asked to, but I said no. Perhaps I'm too much of a purist. But for me, Ann Demeulemeester should do Ann Demeulemeester. That's how I feel about it. And it takes up all my energy as it is.
Ann Demeulemeester impacts live on, even though she has stopped doing fashion for over a decade now. I've seen so many designers being influenced by her over the years, and even in 2025, it's still going strong, which proves she is a real visionary, way ahead of the trends since she started in the 80s. Her legacy thrived not just in aesthetic but in philosophy, championing authenticity and timelessness in an ever-evolving industry. Her work remains a beacon for those who see fashion as a medium for personal and cultural expression. So this is the end of the video, all about Ann Demeulemeester as a designer. Thank you guys so much for staying until this point of the videos. I hope you guys find it helpful and informative, and if you do, please hit the like and subscribe button for more content like this. Since this is my first video, I did everything on my own, and I started this channel to share and to learn from everyone. So I hope that you guys can give me some feedback and probably let me know who should I do next in the comment section, okay? And well, I'll see you guys in the next video. And in the meantime, take care of yourself.